Welcome to the verse-by-verse study of the book of Proverbs. We begin chapter 15 today. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Again, we have a choice between two behaviors. This chapter has 9 verses dedicated to choosing to allow God's wisdom to control our tongue, our words. A gentle answer means a calm, under control response and a tone to a harsh or harmful comment. Wisdom says thoughtfully calm response is very often de-escalates a hostile situation, where the opposite is also true. If we respond in anger, to anger, it only escalates. The point of the author is that the tongue is a powerful double-edged sword. It could be an instrument of good or bad. It's our choice. The tongue of the wise adorns knowledge, but the mouth of a fool gushes folly. To adorn means to enhance, to add value. The wise know what, when, and how to speak words that are constructive, effective, sincere, and uplifting. They think of God's wisdom before they speak, as opposed to the fool that speaks with a gush, meaning without thought. His words are not only foolish, but often are abrasive and counterproductive. The eyes and ears of the Lord are everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good. The author is making a very important theological statement. God is not passive. As noted here in Jeremiah, like a loving parent, God is active in our lives. He knows our words and, more importantly, our motivation. Do we speak to help or do we speak to harm? He actively blesses those that practice his loving wisdom. Next, we have the soothing or healing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit. And also we have in Psalms, they sharpen their tongues like swords and aim cruel words like deadly arrows. Again, the powerful tongue is a double-edged sword. When guided by God's wisdom, it can bring healing, encouragement to others. Kind words from a loving parent, a spouse, a friend can bring much needed support, comfort, yes, healing during difficult times. Or harmful words can crush the spirit, which means bring pain, emotional distress, and discouragement. A fool spurns a parent's discipline or wisdom, but whoever heeds correction shows prudence. To spurn means to arrogantly disrespect, to reject wise counsel, wise advice. The person lacks prudence, meaning they lack the discernment to see and accept that this correction is for their own benefit. The house of the righteous contains great treasure, but the income of the wicked brings ruin. Those that walk upright, following God's wisdom, will gain valuable blessings, treasurable blessings, which is a life of peace, joy, purpose, good reputation, and treasures stored in heaven, good deeds stored in heaven, as opposed to the wages of sin that bring only headache and heartache in this world, and more importantly, ruin in the next life. The lips of the wise spread knowledge, but the hearts of fools are not upright. Again, the wise lips speak knowledge from a heart of God, which has proven to be true, tested over time, as opposed to the fool that speaks from a heart that is not upright because it's self-centered and often deceitful. The Lord detests, rejects the sacrifice of the wicked, but the prayers of the upright please him. The Lord detests the way of the wicked, but he loves those who pursue righteousness. The word detest means an abomination, a disgrace. God is not fooled by insecure, legalistic good deeds, good sacrifices that are motivated by our pride. in an attempt to look good. If someone has rejected God and not following his wisdom, they cannot at the same time buy God's approval or blessings with some insincere good deeds. But for those that have chosen to walk with God, their deeds, their prayers are greatly pleasing to God. They please the heart of God, and they will be blessed. Stern discipline from God awaits anyone who leaves the path. The one who hates correction will die. If we choose to walk the path of wickedness versus righteousness, there will be consequences to that sin. God's purpose is not to punish, but to administer tough love, to encourage us back on the right, blessed path. But if someone continues to choose to reject God and his wisdom and the leading of the Spirit of God, the ultimate consequence is an eternity apart from God. Death, or Sheol, and destruction lie open before the Lord. How much more do human hearts? And a more literal translation here in the ASV, Sheol and Abaddon are before Jehovah, much more than hearts of the children of men. Here this word Sheol is the Hebrew word for hell, and Abaddon is a place of destruction. It's referred to in the Revelation chapter 9 as the abyss, and also the name of the demon that's in charge of the abyss. The verse is saying that God knows all. He knows heaven and he knows hell. Therefore, he knows us. There is no place off limits that escapes God. Again, he knows and cares about our heart and our choices in life. Mockers resent correction, so they avoid the wise. Again, the mocker or fool will go out of their way to avoid correction, meaning God's wisdom. The mocker not only actively rejects God and God's wisdom, they also are hostile and ridicule God. A happy heart makes the face cheerful, but heartache crushes the spirit. The promise to the wise is they will experience joy, hope, peace, and a sincere attitude of gratitude. But the fool, sadly, is never satisfied, never will experience that true joy, peace, and contentment, because that comes from the inside. It comes from the Spirit of God, not from the world's outside pleasures. They truly never satisfy. The discerning heart seeks knowledge, but the mouth of a fool feeds on folly. The discerning heart seeks to know and to consume, to feed upon God's wisdom, while the foolish heart seeks to feed on folly. You know, that old adage is true. We are what we eat. We become what we feed upon. That's why our consumption of social media choices is very important. All the days of the oppressed are wretched, but the cheerful heart has a continual feast. The verse is telling us we cannot always control our circumstances, but we can always control our attitude about those circumstances. Our trust in God and his wisdom will largely determine the quality of our life, more than our circumstances. Yes, we all will face challenges, but God's wisdom says that should not define us. For those that walk in God's wisdom, the promise is we will have the capacity of a cheerful heart. We can choose to become better, not bitter. Lastly, we close with two related verses. Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth and turmoil. Better a small serving of vegetables with love than a fattened calf with hatred. The key word in both these verses is better. Better in terms of a blessed choice, blessed outcome. It is better to choose reverence and appreciation to follow God's wisdom than to have great, in this world, riches. Because without God, those riches will only bring turmoil, strife. And the opposite is true of with God's wisdom, joy, contentment, and peace. Verse 17 says it differently. It says, better to have a humble meal of vegetables where there's shared love at the table. That's better than having a steak dinner where, due to the absence of God's wisdom, there's animosity, hostility at the table. We'll stop there. We'll finish up chapter 15 next week. Until then, may God bless you and your family with both grace and peace. Aloha.